What we're talking about tonight is business building. Essentially, what is it that you're doing to build your business? How are you building it? What are you doing on a daily basis to, to build your business? And starting with the strategy and the tactics, this is an area where I think there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people confuse tactics with strategy, strategy with tactics. Not that they don't know the difference if they were asked to read it like from a dictionary, but they're not really looking at the critical difference between the two and applying, sort of rational logic to the whole equation as pertains to business. And then from, getting your tactics and your strategy worked out, moving on to planning, we're going to cover some planning discussions. Do you have a plan? Are you holding yourself accountable to the plan that you set up? Because that's a big problem. A lot of people, when they go to start a business, they have their plan, but they don't really follow what they're saying. They don't practice what they preach. So that's an issue. How should you plan? What matters? What doesn't? That's a big topic as well, especially for somebody who's new to business, hasn't been in business for a very long time. It can be kind of difficult to figure out exactly what they should be, focusing on. And then execution. This is a big area of concern for a lot of people because a lot of people don't utilize all the resources they have efficiently. They're not self-critical. And I don't mean critical as in beating yourself up, but I mean having the kind of self-criticism that leads to improvement, right? And then what is good execution anyway? Because without any kind of perspective, it's very hard to say, well, I'm doing a great job, I'm doing a so-so job, or I'm doing a poor job of this. Very hard to, figure out exactly what you should be doing if you're not a little bit well-versed in that. So let's talk first about successful entrepreneurs. What does a successful entrepreneur look like? What are they doing? There's a little quote here I wanted to read you guys. Building a business is the same as farming. The harvest only comes after all the hard work's been done. Now, this isn't to say, oh, it's going to be so hard. No, but what it is saying here is that, your reward, you only get rewards if you work. Now, there's 7 steps of successful entrepreneurs I wanted to read to you guys. Success follows success. It's a process, not an event. And that's a very important quote as well, because it is a process. Success is not something that you stumble upon like a lottery ticket. It's something that you grow, you cultivate. It's like a great work of art, right? It's composed of many small parts, all working together in harmony, like a symphony orchestra, to play that song and get that result. There's about 7 things that successful entrepreneurs pretty much all do right. And I can speak for this directly because I've met a lot of them. They dream big, think big, but they act big, right? It's easy to sit there and, have a dream. I'm going to be rich. Okay. I'm going to be rich by selling IT services, right? Selling what we do. But then where's the action? You always have to follow. The dream should be out in front of you, something that you're chasing after. It shouldn't be something behind you that you base yourself upon. And that's very, very important. A lot of people make that mistake. And if you ask them what they do, they tell you something like, well, I run this company that's going to do this and this and this. It should be, what I do is a series of actions that are all adding up to that final goal. Working hard, a big problem people have. And I'm not saying you guys have it, no individual singled out here, but, successful entrepreneurs, they work hard, they show up early, they leave late. I can speak just for the owners of Rocket Driver, the kind of people that show up at 5 a.m. and leave at 10 p.m, can, over and over and over again, right? That's what it took to build this. And that's what it took to build, every business I've been involved with. They ask questions. They look for opportunities. You have to ask a lot of questions. You need a curious mind. If you're somebody that is not inquisitive, that isn't curious about things, that isn't asking questions and doing a lot of critical thinking, right? Do I need this piece of software? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Look at everything critically. Don't just believe what you're told. Investigate, analyze, look at this industry, look at sales, look at opportunities. Development of good habits and having a routine, very, very important. Lots of folks, nobody on this call, but just recently I was talking to somebody and they were telling me they were struggling with marketing. So I started talking to them and kind of digging deeper in the conversation. And I dug into it and I said, well, how many calls do you make in a week? And I said, well, I made a few this week. So you made 3 phone calls in a week, right? How on earth can you judge whether you can sell or not based on 3 phone calls. They said, well, one of them didn't go real well, and the other 2 people, they weren't interested. I said, so, well, the one that didn't go real well, what had happened there? I said, well, it was, I called them, and they were in the wrong time zone, and it didn't work out. The phone, they couldn't give them a full demonstration. I'm like, so 1 screwed up call and 2 calls that they didn't want to buy, and you're judging your efforts? It's crazy, but that's bad habits, right? That's somebody developing for themselves a negative situation when they could be positive, which is another thing. Avoid negativity, right? You don't need it. You don't need it at your business. You don't need it in your life, really, but you really don't need it at your business. If you go into work or go into marketing or go on to a sales presentation with a negative mindset where you're depressed or whatever it is going on, that's going to emanate, right? It's going to cause you problems. You have to focus on your goals, your objectives, and most important thing, I think, of all these things in this list, believe it or not, successful entrepreneurs stay grounded in reality. That is absolutely crucial to your success. And by grounded in reality, I don't mean that you don't dream, you don't have goals, you don't have aspirations, ambitions, all that stuff. Have all those things. But day by day, you should know the only way I'm going to get there is if I put in the work that's needed right now to have that ultimate outcome, right? It's called delayed gratification. You want no pain, no gain. You don't build a muscle by sitting on your ass. The only way that you get yourself a business put together is step after step, sequential order, marching to the beat of your own drum and putting it together. Now let's take a breakdown. The kinds of things that you see in a daily activity roster of somebody who's running a successful agency in our industry, right? There's just 6 little things here, right? Emailing, right? Something that seems so simple, but checks emails, responds to people who email them, responds to clients. Unsuccessful people, you see sporadic response times, all kinds of chaos there. You see very routine response times in people that, have themselves set up properly, that have their phone, email accounts working on the phone, the desktop, the tablet, and that they pay attention to it. So their communication chain really is always open. So they can be communicated with in real time by a prospect, right? A lot of people don't think about that, but that's really important. Marketing, cold calling, door knocking, event marketing, whatever the form of marketing is at that agency, these are people that are conducting this on a routine, ongoing basis. They've, ingested and incorporated marketing into their daily routine. It's just part of what they do and who they are. Advertising, which is separate from marketing, although very much so interconnected, right? Doing things like, emailing, Facebook posting, stuff like that, right? Very similar, but, they're kind of related events. They get the word out about their business. Research, self-training. This is really critical. We give you a lot of training in this program, right? But we can't give you all the training in the world. You have access to search engines and an internet that's just buzzing with information to teach yourself about generalized technology topics, about marketing, about advertising, about different sales techniques. We grab as much as we can and we incorporate it, but you have to become, and I use this phrase a lot, a student of your craft. You have to look at building a business as something that you do it not just for a living, it's your life, right? If you run a company, right? If you build a successful company, that is not your job. That's your life. Somebody has a job, is there from 9 to 5, and they don't care if the place burns down when they're not there because it's just their job. Somebody who built that company, who put in the blood, the sweat, and the tears of building that company, it's part of who they are. And I don't mean this in a superficial way. I mean, it's very much a true thing. When you have 50 clients, right, that you've spoken to in person, closed, processed, supported, got to know, demonstrated to, got to meet the people that your business is just an extension of your entire life. Your clients are not like a cold-blooded relationship with a stranger. You get to know these people. They become part of your world. You'll get invited to parties. You'll get invited over to houses. You'll get invited to business meetings and functions. They'll network and they'll recommend you to other people. You have to look at it as an extension of your life, right? And then management, right? Conducting management, recruiting, managing salespeople, motivating salespeople. Sometimes you have to play a little bit psychiatrist and a little bit dictator, and you have to do a little bit of both. You have to be a little bit Charlie Manson and a little bit, Hannibal Lecter sometimes. You have to get in there and motivate your salespeople, right? Sometimes it's with money, sometimes it's with tough love, but you get them motivated, right? That's part of the daily grind if you're going to build a sales force. If you choose not to, that's cool, and I totally respect that and understand it. But if it is, you're going to have to manage that. That is not something that is going to manage itself. And then, of course, sales, the biggest part of everyone's day, who you see who is successful. Now, sometimes people sell individually by themselves, right? They go out there and they conduct the sales themselves. Other times they manage a sales force, but it's always front and center of everyone's mind who runs an agency is what's going on with sales. We have sales coming in. If we just close somebody, how many opportunities? Who's in the funnel? What's going on with this lead, that account, this client? That's a big, big part of it, right? That's an ongoing concern that you have to keep in your mind, right? Because look, I want every single one of you guys and gals and everybody in between, to get out there and to make a ton of sales and make a ton of money, right? I want everybody to succeed here. For you guys to succeed, you have to look at what you're doing from the perspective, not of, something that you're just kind of jumping into and you're going to, kind of mess around with it as a hobby. If that's what you want, if you want it to be a hobby, that's great. And I'm not saying you can't make sales, very much so part-time, but you need a plan for that time. If you're going to work 3 hours a week, you're going to, get 3 hours a week worth of results. And if you're okay with that, cool. You need to have a plan for your 3 hours. If your 3 hours is spent, goofing around, you're not going to get anywhere. This stuff all matters. Now, training and curiosity, like I just said, in order to be successful, you have to become an ongoing student of your craft. It isn't about perfection. It's about the pursuit of success and fostering your own curiosity. This is so important. And I remember years and years ago, it's probably 20 years ago now, I got a book it was written by, I got Plato and I got a book of Socratic logic, but it was written by an author that came much later, like hundreds of years later. And I went through the book, and the key point was that your critical thinking, your ability to rationalize, to look at the world around you rationally and to integrate facts of information and to come to, conclusions was so critical to your success, because without that ability, you were functioning on things like anecdotes, rumors, superstitions. You were functioning basically using someone else's rationalization process, right? Someone else's brain. You need to be able to function with your own brain. And I'm not saying anybody here isn't, but it's something that a lot of people don't think about. You have to have your own curiosity about these topics, right? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to spend all your time studying. I'm not saying you have to become some kind of a philosopher, but this industry is filled with information, filled with techniques and methods. Think with Google publishes stuff. There's so many designs out there online and venues to research and study. Go out there and use them. Study these things. Figure out what your plan's going to be. Now let's go into tactics and strategy. That was just a brief sort of intro to what sort of I'm talking about here. Tactics and strategy. Have you ever thought of the difference, right? Has anybody here ever thought of the difference between them? Because a lot of people haven't. Tactics are short-term things, right? Tactical thinking is thinking about the immediate problem and solving it, right? Like if I go into a sales presentation and I can't find my charger for my phone and I have to improvise and maybe borrow someone else's charger, that's a tactical decision. The decision to give the presentation is more strategic, right? It's bigger level stuff. Flexible. Tactics change day to day. They're flexible. They're impermanent. Very important, because tactics are but only so much. They only matter so much. And a lot of people get very confused. They look at small, minute, tiny things, and they fixate upon them, and they think it's what matters, right? What you need to do is you need to just open your mind up and look at the big picture, the strategy, right? Strategies take everything into account, right? You need a short, medium, and long-term strategy. What are you going to do to get yourself sales this week, this month, this year? And strategies are very, very, very important. Now, you guys are with Rocket Driver. I think that's a very good strategy because we care very much about your success. That was a good strategic decision. Now that you're in this program, right, and you're getting out there and you're starting to market and you're starting to sell and you're starting to spend your time building your businesses. It's time to develop a specific strategy for your business and your situation in life that devotes however much time you feel comfortable with devoting to your business and however much time you can to getting yourself selling and getting yourself, on the right track. So that's what it's all about. Now, some common strategic and tactical mistakes people make, right? Right? Wrong market, right? People focusing on selling globally before, or nationally before they've sold locally. Bad pricing, right? I've seen that, harm people where, people were so overwhelmingly greedy, right? As really what it boiled down to, that they set up expectations that were wrong in clients' minds, like taking a 5-page, $300 website and going out and trying to sell it for $7,000 and actually landing the sale because they were good at, convincing the person to buy, but then the person's expecting $7,000 worth of work for $300 worth of labor, right? Because they don't know that we exist. Situations like that. That's a strategic mistake because ultimately you just destroy your own reputation, right? Bad sales strategies like putting on a whole bunch of sales reps, having zero accountability and just letting them run loose, not doing any kind of management. Lack of planning, huge strategic mistake. Negativity in general, I think, is a strategic mistake. People focusing upon the wrong things, focusing upon, they're not seeing the forest from the trees. Lack of training, major strategic blunder here. When you go out and you start selling things that you don't understand what you're selling, what are you setting yourself up for? Well, you're setting yourself up to be in a really bad situation. You cannot sell something you don't understand. I couldn't sell something I don't understand. I mean, on one level, I guess I could sell a car to somebody and I don't know how to work on an engine per se, right? But if I go and do that, I better have somebody who does right next to me, right? Tactical mistakes, low work ethic. Seen that happen a lot where people just don't they don't make the phone calls. They don't want to do the work. That's a major mistake. Sporadic work, chaotic, right? Working a little bit here, a little bit there, but not being consistent. Poor sales presentations. This is the kind of stuff that happens all the time here and there. But if it's chronic, it's a problem, right? Where you have a bad demo and if 1 turns into 10 and 10 turns into 20, well, you're burning your own leads then. Lack of marketing in general, meaning lack of showing up at trade shows, showing up at home shows, just a general lacking in that way. Low motivation, which is somewhat internal, somewhat external. And then poor process control, meaning when you get sales, how is the process? Okay, you guys can hear me okay? Somebody just typed in the chat. Okay, can you guys hear me all right? All right, let me see here. Tom, I'll absolutely answer your question. You as well, Brian. Let me just get through this here. Okay, now I want to go on here and talk about your strategy. Okay, you have got to set up a strategy for yourself. This is really important to do. You've got to customize it to yourself. You have to do your own preparation, your own planning, and you have to learn from the mistakes of other people and do not overthink things. Very important not to overthink the kind of strategy that you need to be successful. And as always, be a student of your craft. So let's go into planning, how you're going to lay down a plan for your business, right? A strategy here. But before I do that, I want to say, big question is, are you lazy, right? Are you actively pursuing sales? Have you focused on the wrong stuff? Did you try and meet with resistance and give up? This kind of things. Did you honestly put in 100%? What really happened here? Well, what happened here, generally speaking, is a lack of planning. It's not generally that you're lazy. It's not. Might seem like that, but that's not what it is. It's that it's almost ingrained in us as human beings not to be able to work if we don't have a plan of action. Because what are we going to do? Just run around like crazy people? No, we have to have a plan. If we don't have a plan, how can we follow it, right? So it starts with planning. That's where it all begins. Fostering a solid work ethic for yourself starts with you doing the necessary work of planning, right? But you have to get the right perspective even before you start laying down plans on paper, right? So let's go through this. You got these 3 steps here. We have train, plan, execute. Everybody on this call should go through training, right? Study our services, go through the training we've provided you. Any definitions, things that lower level things being skipped is very, very much a problem. Like if you don't know what a word means, right? And I'm using it repeatedly in materials or in a video or something, go and Google it. Look it up, educate yourself, make sure that you have a comprehensive understanding of what's being talked about. That's the training that you have to do. You have to go and do all the training that we've got there. Then you're ready to start planning. What you're going to do is we're going to develop a plan of action for your marketing, your sales, and your overall business. That's the goal here so that you can execute it. Now, let's get into some practical planning. Something I think is really important, and this is something any of you guys were in my office, if you sat with me and you worked with me, you'd see that I always take physical notes. I type notes, right? And then sometimes I used to use a recorder, right? And I would take notes like that. But I think for something big and important like the plan for your business, like what you're going to do, you should actually sit and write notes. I do that all the time. I always write my notes down. I say, okay, this is my daily agenda. These are the big 5 items that I have to get done today. And I go through it. Tomorrow I flip the page. You need to have an actual plan. I would write it down if I were in your shoes. Include the goals that you have, right? Put your goals on paper. Put down your marketing objectives. Say to yourself like this, just as an example. Let's say that you can devote, some of you on this call can devote 60 hours a week, and some of you can devote, let's say 10 hours a week. I don't know if we have anybody on this call that's going to go less than 10, but let's just say 10 is the minimum, 60 and 10. Let's go high side because some of you on this call I know work really hard. Let's go 80 and 10, right? If you can devote 10 hours a week to building your business, you can divide those 10 hours up efficiently, and you can be diligent, and you can be hardworking, and you can get a lot done in 10 hours. 10 hours time, how many calls can you make? How many doors can you knock? How many people can you get in touch with? How many demonstrations can you perform, right? That means that if you really break it down, let's say that you spent 3 hours cold calling, 3 solid hours, right? I think just about all of you who are on here could scare up 3 demos, 4 demos. Come on, 3 solid hours, right? You're just trying to get a demonstration, right? Can you scare them up? And we're talking with cold calling here, it's not the best method in the world. I prefer door knocking, but I know it intimidates a lot of you guys. The point is, if you spend 3 solid hours doing that, and let's say you spend let's say that gives you 3 demonstrations, and let's say those 3 demonstrations, right? That'll give you, we've got 3 hours of marketing, 3 demos that last an hour a piece. There's 6 hours. Still leaves you with 4 hours to do whatever with. And that whatever could be recruiting a salesperson or 2. That whatever could be doing more cold calling, more door knocking. You could spend that other 4 hours developing local partnerships. We're going to go through all that, though, and a lot more. Now, we'll go through some of the steps of planning. My main point to you guys in going through this is, time is not the problem. The use of time is the problem. So here are some steps in planning. If you're going to draw up your own plans, number 1, you got to set your goals, right? I think everybody's goal, anybody who, I don't know that any of you haven't sold. I think everybody on this call has sold, right? But if you're one of them, if you haven't sold in a while, because I don't keep track of that stuff, if any of you haven't sold in a while, or maybe you're new to the rocket driver and you haven't sold at all, I think your first goal should always be to sell someone. And I'll talk more about what I mean by that in terms of the immediate goal should always be to sell somebody. You need to always be closing because there's a bunch of reasons for that. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's one goal. Another goal might be to build a sales force. Another goal might be to sell SEO, right? You might want to branch out because, these are new services. You may want to sell some SEO deals. You may want to sell omni-channel. You may want to sell any of our 3.0 services. But you set the goals for yourself, what you're going to sell, how much. Set yourself an income goal for the year, right? Just for the hell of it, right? Say this year, I want to make, I don't know, what do you want to make? What is it? I mean, we all want to make as much as possible, but what do you want? What do you think is completely attainable based on how much time you can spend, what your goals are? Write down your actual goals. Put it down. Say, okay, I want to make 500,000 this year, right? Put that on paper. Time. How much time can you invest? It's part of your plan. It has to be, I'm going to spend this much time, because without time, you cannot self-assign tasks without the time to do it, right? So then you get your time down. I'm going to spend X hours per week. Marketing. How are you going to market? Really crucial. Really, really, really important is you have to get that all hashed out. And I'll go into some venues and methods that I really like in a minute, but you have to get this all on paper, right? And lastly, this is part of your plan, is an analysis. You have got to look at what you're doing critically without being negative, right? I'll tell you guys, you wouldn't believe how many times I built stuff, looked at it, destroyed it, and rebuilt it once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times myself. Done this many times. That's how development works. That's something that you have to get past, right? You have to get to a point where you're not negative, you're critical. You want to do the best job possible. So when you look at your plan, if you're not living up to it, maybe the plan needs to change. Maybe your behavior needs to change. That's a part of this planning that isn't on the paper, but it's got to be in your head. I'm telling you, that's how successful entrepreneurs are. Successful entrepreneurs are not about their personal ego and vanity and stuff like that when it comes to building businesses. Not at that time anyway. Maybe they become like that down the road. But when they're building businesses, it's always about the best idea has to win, not the best person, the idea, right? So to that end, you have to think like this when you're planning. You have to get past the fear of change. This is a major, major, major hurdle people have. No matter how good that plan turns out, right? You have got to understand, you have to be willing to try new things. And I'll tell you guys why I bring this point up. I absolutely know for a verifiable fact how good local marketing venues are. I know they're great because I know the sales people are making and how many of them come from local venues. And it's about 90% plus. Right? Maybe 99% plus. I don't know, but I know off the top of my head, it's 90% at least. Right? The reason I know this is because we keep track of this stuff. And boy, the way people are so afraid to go after the local market. And I think that there's multiple reasons for this. I think one of the fears is it's like a fear of change, a fear of, I don't know, there might be like associations with public speaking or something like that. Or maybe it's just that, it's been so long before, it's been a long time since people knocked doors generally and stuff like that. So they don't associate it with a positive form of marketing. But I can tell you guys, try it out. You're going to be scared at how easy it is. When you knock doors and you walk in, you've got a business card and a smile, and you're talking to a human being face to face, they can't hang up on you and they don't want to. Right. And if you're doing any kind of uncommon form of marketing, that means that you're going to be successful because it's not being done by everybody else. What you want to do is do the kind of marketing other people are not doing continuously. If you're trying to just do what other people are doing and you're not thinking outside the box, you're not going to be successful, right? Because you have to compete with everybody else. You door knock, as much as it seems ridiculous. You know how many partners through the years I've worked with where I told them, look, door knocking, it works. I'm telling you. They try it. They try local venues, going to local organizations, building local partnerships, and all of that. And they're very, very successful. So let's move on to sales here. We'll talk about sales for a little bit. Sales theory. This is something I want to just kind of warn you guys against, is getting involved in sales, getting too immersed in the theory of sales, not spending enough time looking at it as a practical, concrete function. Lots of people, and I'm guilty of this myself because years ago I've studied tons of books on sales theory, NLP, and all kinds of different topics on sales that look at it in the abstract, that take what is ultimately a very human, component of our being and turn it into some clinical dissected frog on the table where we do a post-mortem on it. And that's not necessarily the best way to look at it, right? Sales is something that you have to do in a concrete term. You go out, you talk to somebody, you ascertain their needs, you frame your product or service in a way that will help them. And you genuinely, with our industry, we're consultants. We genuinely want to help, of course. But, at the same time, we want to make a sale. So, it's not about perfection. It's not about being technically perfect. Sales, I think, is as much about intention and connection as it is about methodology, right? It's one of those things that if you get your technique down, it just needs to work for you. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to memorize a ton of closes. This should not be something that's keeping you sidelined from getting out there and marketing, is my main overall point. And when I hear people say, well, I don't feel like I'm ready to sell yet, I think you're crazy because, I look back at my own life when I was like 18 years old, going and doing marketing and selling, and I didn't have any training at all, and I made a ton of sales. You could do the same exact thing if you get out there and, the best teacher is experience, right? Closing techniques will only get you so far. They only matter so much. You could teach closing techniques to somebody that has, the charisma of a serial killer, and they're not going to do anything with it at all. I can tell you that for a fact. Many old-fashioned techniques work extremely well. Door knocking, mailers can even still work. Many, many techniques that you associate with being old-fashioned, right, can work brilliantly at a local level, brilliantly, really well, especially partnerships. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Something that I said before, I'm going to repeat, is always be realistic. Don't whale hunt. This is something that I hear from people, and, I bring it up because it's a continual, perpetual thing where, we'll have people and their partners, and they're looking for that, $50,000 plus size deal. Maybe it's not 50. Maybe for them, it's 100,000, right? They're looking for those mega deals. The mega deals are out there, right? They really are. At least they're really being transacted. The problem is, those kind of deals take years usually to close. They're not deals you're going to close in in a short enough time frame to be successful, because it takes so long, right? It's a lengthy process usually with those monster deals. It's tremendously amounts of custom code. They even get specialized forms of insurance on those deals, so if it falls through, money doesn't change hands that hurts anybody. I mean, they get crazy at that level, the bigger deals, right? When you get into these massive, especially government deals, they're huge, but they're an entirely different process. And when I see people spend enormous amounts of time and energy going after deals like that, I've got to just kind of bring them back to reality. Be realistic. You need to just make sales to start building your business up, right? Don't turn away don't cherry pick and throw away deals that are, there to be had. If somebody wants you to make $600 on a service, go and make the $600, right? If you have a prospect in front of you that says, hey, I've got $1,500 and I need a website and it's, 8 pages, right? Okay, it's not a huge deal. It's not optimal. Take the deal though, because when you get that deal and you land it, you're going to build your book of business. You're going to be successful that way. Stay practical. Have dreams, not delusions. Very, very, very important. You have to focus on the right stuff. Now, I'm going to hone in and start talking about these local marketing venues, because roughly 4 groups, right? There's 4 different things you can really do at a local level that, can be very successful. Home shows and trade shows, right? You have all kinds of these local different events that are going on, local sort of groups, but really not, the local groups where you can go out there and you have all kinds of different companies that get together to demonstrate their products. And okay, some of you might be in areas where there's fewer of these than others, but most of you are near a major city of one size or another, and you've got these going on. You have all the home shows, trade shows, conferences, local organizations like SCORE, Senior Corps of Retired Executives, and you've got the different Better Business Bureau groups. You've got all kinds of groups and associations of businesses and entrepreneurs and people that are your target group that you can sell your services to. You should be all over that, right? All over that. Go into those events. It's not scary. It's not intimidating. People get to know who you are. They shake your hand. You get them your business card. You start making contacts. You start making connections. You start making demos and sales. Local partnerships. I was talking to somebody today, great guy, partner here with Rocket Driver, and we were talking about local partnerships. And I was telling him, look, some of the groups that I used to be partnered with locally to get leads and sales, hairdressers. You'd be hairdressers, bartenders, realtors, anybody who's coming in contact with lots of different people and business people locally is a potential partner. And all I do to set up a partnership is I tell them, look, I'll give you X% of whatever business you generate. Here's my number. Here's my card. Give me a call. I scribble on the back 20% or 30%, whatever it was, whatever the figure was. And it all varied. But the point was, I would get them enfranchised with me in the process of getting me leads, right? Very easily. And when you actually pay out, you will get friends that, believe me, they're going to be very appreciative, and you're going to get a lot more leads. Success really does breed success. Local online groups. Many of us are in areas where there's robust online communities that we can network in. We can network on LinkedIn. You can network on Facebook. You can network on all different social media sites with other professionals. You should start always be building yourself a network, right? You can't hang up on a handshake. Cold calling and door knocking, absolutely essential things to do to be successful in this industry. I think, right? I think as in terms of being a local method to utilize, get on the phone, call some local businesses, talk to them about their websites, talk to them about their online marketing, knock on their door, inform them, say, hey, I noticed that, you're not running digital ads. You're not showing up in AdWords. Now with Rocket Driver 3.0, you can come at them 50 different ways, right? But the point of it is you can get leads this way. You can land business this way. Local sales facts. And I kind of already covered this, but it's kind of important as well to go through. And, it's just to reiterate, many people are looking at these giant deals. They're focusing their time and energy on them. They're not focusing upon the deals they could have, that could close out, make them money this week. You have to be focused on sales that are going to happen in a reasonable time frame. Local, a lot of people get this perception. I've literally been on a call with a guy. He said, oh, you're talking about, being local. You're talking about something puny, this and that. Not at all. Not at all. Local does not mean small. Local does not mean less profitable, and it does not mean it's more difficult. Local is usually much easier, faster, and more profitable because when you're selling locally, people trust you because they know you as a person, right? You're standing in front of them. It's much easier to gain credibility that way and to get somebody to open their wallet and really pull out the deep cash at a local level than it is at a national level where they're never going to meet you, or let alone a global level. So it's local selling is easier selling by far. Now, managing your sales force. Some of you are selling, as individuals, and that's great. And some of you have sales forces. Some of you have recruited some pretty large teams. I know there's some people on here that have recruited at a pretty large level. You need to really look at whether you're managing your own time or you're looking at your salesperson's time and you're talking about managing someone else. You have to look at how time is being spent, right? Are all these marketing options being implemented? Because here's a problem that I see, and I've seen this in myself. You go to implement one marketing method, right? So let's go back a slide, right? A couple slides. Say that you just do one of these methods, right? You just get leads from groups and shows. You attend some home shows and you say, well, I got 15 leads or 20 leads from the local home show. I don't need to make cold calls. I don't need a door knock. I don't need this and don't need that. Well, the way leads work is you wind up with this kind of almost like a sinusoidal wave where you have tons of leads after the show and then boom, they drop right off. What you need is a straight line, not a sinus wave, right? You need a straight line. You need leads coming in continuously because that's how you build a large sales force. You need to have consistency. Consistency matters even more than volume. I'll go as far as to say that because leads are usually good for a certain time period and then they dry up, right? Or they get closed and then you upsell them. But the point is, you have to have stability. So you need to be marketing in all possible ways. Are results being yielded? Lots of demos what will happen sometimes is somebody will say, well, I just had 7 demos this week. Surely I'm going to have a sale next week. That's kind of like delusional thinking. You don't know that you're going to get a sale just because you demonstrated a lot last week. until you get stability and you can analyze results, you really don't know. There's no way for you to know. So what you have to do is you have to be critical of it. You have to say, well, I need to work more and more and more, right? I mean, you have to put in work until you have some demonstrable result of some kind, and then you can tweak it and improve upon it. Has negativity had an impact, right? When you have a sales force, you have to be positive. You have to motivate. You have to train. You have to be the person that gets them excited. What are your goals, right? Managing your sales force, what are the goals? Are they being met, right? Or are we hitting the weekly quota of demos, of sales, of whatever, of lead flow? Always keeping track of that. And now with Rocket Driver 3.0, you have a lot more resources, right? You need to go through training. Absolutely crucial that everybody here goes through training and learns the services. You don't necessarily need to learn every single service before you start selling. In fact, I can say for a fact you do not, right? You do not need to know every single technical thing. In fact, the whole point of Rocket Driver 3.0 is to take the technical onus completely off of you. Keep this stuff in mind, guys. Number one, Rocket Driver 3.0 services are managed services. That means you make a sale, you get us some basic information about the client, right? We're talking dog tag level information, name, address, phone number, website, right? Basic info. We take over. We call them. We set the service up. We implement the service. And then afterwards, we give the client the phone number they can call to get support. All you do is bill them, right? Pretty much. And of course, call them back and try to upsell them. But the point is, the onus is taken off of you. You don't have to have tremendous technical training, and you don't need to get involved in, codes and widgets and, none of that stuff. That stuff does not even apply. Yes, you should be a student of your craft. You should study as hard as you can, and you should educate yourself. But the real hard work, the heavy lifting is being done by us, right? So do you know the procedures and practices, right? What do I mean by that? Procedures and practices. Well, there's procedures, right? In order for you to go ahead and, like I just said, when you make a sale, right? Do you know that we have managed services? Do you guys know this stuff? Are you comfortable enough with pitching people, right? Are you comfortable when you're going out there and you're talking about services? What I advise people to do, and I'm going to say it later on here, is I advise everybody who gets in 3.0, and I think everybody here is crazy not to upgrade, but, do what you want. You get in 3.0, utilize SEO sales support. We'll close the deal for you. So at that point, all you need to really know is, Google equals search engine. Search engine equals, higher up is good, lower down is bad. We want, page one. You need to know a really basic, like index card with a magic marker level, pitch. And at that point, it's just raw charisma. Can you get people to sit through a demo? So you're basically just an opener. And you bring a closer on, you close them out, you bill these people, and then you let managed services and support take over. And that's the easiest way to build a business right now, I think. The easiest service to start with. Now, of course, you want to learn the other services, right? If you have any sticking points with this stuff, we're here to help, Now, let's go here. Services and selling. Small sales grow into large clients. Really critical. Don't look at a small sale. Like I heard a guy the other day, I was talking to him and he was saying, yeah, business listings, it's not really like a really high dollar service. I don't know, what your deal is with that. Or my deal with that is, yeah, that's the point. Business listings are designed to be sold to absolutely everyone, right? That's a service where we're going to do something very visibly positive for the client. It's going to cost them almost no money, right? You don't have to make huge profit on it. Sell it to absolutely everybody. And the point is, once you've got your foot in the door, then you go back and you've got them into our system, right? You've got them into the business center system. So now analytics can be shown to them. You can see what they're looking at when they browse the store. They go in there, they start seeing their business pop up in all these new online venues, right? The directory listings, they see some positive uptick from it, right? Then you go back and you prove to them, hey, you bought this service from me for, whatever. Let's say you sell it for $300, right? You spent $300 and X amount per month, and I did this for you. And here's the result. I can show you your phone ringing. I can show you people going to your website. And you can go and say, give me some more money to work with, and I'll do something even better for your business. That's the point, right? Small sales grow into large clients. You don't have to learn every single service to begin selling. SEO is, of course, what I believe to be the ultimate and ideal service, right? For you to begin selling with, because it's a mass. Use the sales support, because with that facility to get closers on the phone for you that really know how to do this, as a full-time job, right? Will close out the deal for you, and they'll close it out based on telling the client, hey, you need this package, not price tag, right? And of course, you inform us. The way it works is really simple with SEO sales support. Basically, let's say you have a demo booked for tomorrow at 1 p.m., right? Irregardless of the time zone. You email our support department, say, hey, I need a guy to call in and get on a close for me tomorrow at 1 p.m. And you tell them whatever the backstory is. The client is called so-and-so. I talked about a price of such and such. I talked about a date of implementation of such and such. You just tell them the basic facts so that they have a lay of the land. You get them on the phone, boom, they'll close the deal. This service should be utilized. If you're selling SEO, absolutely use it. So 33.3% closing ratio here. That might not sound high to some of you. That is a very high closing ratio for SEO campaigns over the phone. That's a very high ratio. That means 1 in 3 demos you set up will knock down. If that were me, I would be setting 9 demos a week, right? Walking away with 3 sales every single week of SEO packages. And then in about 2-3 months, I'd be completely set up for my year. I could go, on a permanent vacation to Hawaii if I wanted to. Point is, you put in a lot of effort. It's really worth it with this service. Seriously, guys, listen to me on this one, if nothing else. Now, something I believed in, and I came up with this concept. In fact, I don't know if it's an original concept of my own, but I did come up with it as a concept without any outside help. And that is client zero, like patient zero, right? It's like the beginning of a disease. This is the beginning of your client base, right? Something I noticed years and years and years ago was people who were going to sell would sell, and they would sell and sell and sell, and they would accelerate like a starting of an engine, like tick, 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 tick. They would, swing up. And people who are not going to sell would do a little bit of effort, get negative, stall out, stop, stand still, and then eventually that's it, right? And these were the patterns that emerged. But if that person who put in the effort changed their perspective, and I experimented with this. If somebody was getting negative, you got in touch with them, you said, look, you need to close somebody just to close somebody, to go through the process, to do it for yourself. Don't even do it to try to make huge money. Just literally go out there, find someone who needs a website, right? Take the site that's from us for $350 and go and sell it for $550 just to make the deal happen, right? To start building a client base. If we interrupted this process, what ended up happening was quite often they'd get motivated by making that sale, even though it's not a very lucrative deal. It's not, going to get them rich, and you can't survive on $200 sales unless you get a lot of them. But if you do this, you begin to build your client base. Now, with 3.0 of Rocket Driver, I would do this for almost every sale. And I'll tell you guys why. Not saying websites aren't profitable. They are. They're good and profitable. But if you build a large client base and you start punching people into that system and going back and selling SEO to all of your own clients, and you start selling digital advertising and social media and reputation management, you look at that base of clients almost as an incubation chamber where you're going to bring in lots of clients, get them in there, get them into your fold with websites and business listings, and then circle back and sell them all the other services you have on offer. That's the way I look at it. And client zero is where it begins, which is just getting that first sale. Go out there and sell them. And with client zero, it could be an SEO campaign now. It could be a website. It could be a social media package. It could be any of our services, right? But go out there and do it. You have absolutely rock bottom prices at your disposal. You guys have like white label prices, especially for websites that are really, really rock bottom. Everything we have is very, very, very ultra competitive, right? sell somebody just to sell somebody. It's extremely easy to upsell an existing client. There's been big analysis done on this by Microsoft and big companies everywhere that have found this to be the case. Now, 3 little tips here. Money motivates. Profit is what motivates us in business, but sometimes it isn't the size of the deal. And that's what Client Zero is all about. This is a recurring revenue business model. Please remember that. All of you are in Rocket Driver 3.0. I know that, when you came in, you may not have had this discussion with you guys, because I've had this discussion with a lot of people. It's all about recurring revenue now. Every single service has a recurring component to it. Business listings, social media, omni-channel, SEO, websites, reputation. These all have recurring revenue components to them. So don't fixate so much upon each individual sale. Do try to profit, of course. I'm not saying not to, but understand that you're going to ultimately make a ton of your money off of recurring revenue from lots of sales. Now, tools. Tools are there to be used. Are you using everything at your disposal? Last point that I want to make is a lot of people don't use the tools you've got, right? Those of you who are ultra partners, guys, send me an email, right? Shoot me over an email. Let's have a time. Let's have a conversation. I'd love to talk with you about what's going on at your business. Maybe I can help you figure out a strategy that'll work for you. Utilize the resources you have. You use the training materials, study the stuff that's out there, use the CRM, use the marketing automation. These systems are there for you to use. Lastly here, and trust me, the presentation's about over. One of the hallmarks of failure is disorganization in all of its incarnations. Staying organized and developing good habits, they go hand in hand together. These are some things that I think are really important. Being ready to demo all the time. You should always be able to conduct a demonstration. Keep your computer virus-free and clean. Study the materials you have at your disposal. As always, go through training and be prepared to sell, and you will sell. It's really good talking to everybody here. And any of you that are Ultra Partners, fire me over an email. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from anybody, from even if you're not an Ultra Partner. And guys, I really, want to stress this one more time to everyone here, that Rocket Driver 3.0 was something that took, let's say, the better part of a year from my perspective to put together, but it took 9 years to get to a point where we were able to develop it and to actually make it a reality. I would stress to everyone, if you don't know what's inside it, go to rocketdriver.com, read about it, take a look at it. Everybody who's, in this program gets a discounted upgrade price. I would stress to everyone, if you're making money and you're doing well selling websites like many of you are, it's a minor leap to go and be able to remonetize every client that you've got. Go back, hit them all for SEO, hit them all for social media, reputation management, to go back and, turn those wells of profit over and replumb them depths and find more money there. We offer so much now. It's CRM solution, marketing automation system, pre-built drip campaigns, the whole SEO sales support, and of course the services themselves and all the training for your salespeople that goes along with that, in conjunction, of course, with a free screen sharing application. There's just so much stuff. It's almost like mind numbing to go over it again. Check it out. All right, guys, I would tell you that. Just check it out. Check out what we've put together. Brian, you're absolutely 100% welcome. Tom, Bob, Susan, Mitchell, everybody who's on the call, and I can't see all your names, but everybody who's here, thank you guys for your time, and thanks for coming on this webinar. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great weekend, and hope to hear from you. Bye, guys. Good night.